Morning, everyone. So thank you first for coming to this room over the other room. So it's good to see you all. I'm going to be talking about the product confidence trap and kind of how you work out when you might want to move on as a product manager through a discovery. And so that's what the talk's about. As an introduction, I find it strange after kind of Cat's talk where I'm going to talk about myself in an expert point of view. I'm not kind of introducing myself in quite the same way, but hey, I didn't change the slides between then. But at a kind of high level, what I think about when I do work is about value delivery over story completion. So for me, value is much more important than just doing the things in the backlog. Okay, so that's my kind of like strap line. But to give a little bit of expert experience, I've been doing agile and digital transformation for about 20 years. When I started getting into agile in 2003, I thought I was actually fairly late getting into the market. Turns out I was fairly early, and now I spend my time kind of talking with organizations, working with organizations through their agile and digital transformations. What I do as a job, so I work as the chief for delivery for an agile consultancy called And Digital, mainly based in the UK, in England, in Scotland, but also we have offices in the Netherlands. What my job entails is looking after how we evolve delivery practices, product practices, and XD. So XD for us is all experience design, so UX, UI, CX, SD. And so my job is actually about evolving the practices for the consultancy. So I spend a lot of time talking to people, trying to obviously find marginalized people by all accounts. I need to kind of find some more of those from the talk earlier, but that's what my job's about. And it's a great job. I love doing it. I love talking about this stuff. But I also look after another part. So I also look after the social agenda for And Digital. So if anyone has anything they want to talk about upskilling, minority groups, students, anybody basically who wants to get into tech, come and grab me afterwards. I'd love to talk to you about that because I have a target, on behalf of And Digital, I have a target to upskill 200,000 people, and I need anybody's help to do that. So please come and talk to me about that. Okay. So that's my introduction. If you want to connect to me on LinkedIn, there's a nice little dinosaur QR code. So what is the product confidence trap? So you'll see that I have this nice physical prop with me. Yeah. So this is intended to help me talk about loops and have sections and loops and loops and loops. But what the product confidence trap is when you as a doing a discovery, in a product delivery, in a however you're working, it's when you get stuck. Yeah, you get stuck at a certain point. You're still evaluating, you're still trying to work out what's going on. It's when you haven't you're not sure about your insight, and it's when you haven't kind of quite asserted what your actual level of risk is. And that's what the product confidence trap is. And so we need to build confidence as product managers, product owners, delivery teams, whatever it is and kind of whatever structure we're working in, we've got to build that confidence to move forwards. Because otherwise we get stuck in circles. We get stuck in loops, okay? So we're going to keep coming back to this as a toy. So what you should get from this session, so we're going to talk about product discovery at a high-level framework. So this is the framework we use at And Digital. It's not rocket science. There's a certain amount of design thinking. There's a certain amount of other kind of circles that go into it. There's a certain amount of parts that come from a variety of different places, but it's a model we like, and strangely, it looks a bit like this as well, so which is quite useful from a model. We're also going to be talking about Cynefin and how that links into that, but mainly from a kind of thinking point of view. So we're going to be talking about enabling constraints. We're also then going to look at a Boyd loop at the end to actually say, how can you take this forward from here? And also, there's also going to be a set of tenuous links to films, because I only realized when we got here that this is going to be in a cinema, so I've kind of forced some film themes into this as well. So, first one of those, and I want you guys to participate in this. Can you name this film? It's not going to be very hard. Anyone? Was that? The Labyrinth. Okay. Yes, good. So The Labyrinth, 1986 film. It has a maze in it. It's getting through that. You're getting lost in the maze. The maze changes. This is the metaphor. Okay, it's a tenuous metaphor, I know, but that's the thing. So we're gonna have some of those coming up as we go through. So the discovery flow that I was talking about, this is the nice model stacked up, but this is actually what the model looks like from our side. So we have a strategy cycle that we're going to talk through. So this is when you're understanding business, strategy, needs. There is an opportunity cycle when you're looking at that opportunity. There's a solution cycle, and there's a delivery cycle. We've written this in many different formats: diamonds, circles, super circles, spirals, all kinds of stuff. It's becoming complex in terms of how you get it defined. But actually, it really is sort of almost a bit like a cone like this. Different layers of different types of confidence. And depending on where you're coming into the cycle, depends on what type of work you want to do. But also, depending on where you come into it, it depends on where you may get stuck. Okay, so this is the only time I've ever used the spin motion that actually kind of worked quite usefully. So you might get stuck in a strategy space, you might get stuck in opportunity, you might get stuck in solution, you might get stuck in delivery. And so we're going to talk through in the final session, 20 minutes of this session, about what you might do. Yeah, so how might you get out of a trap where you are stuck, always just talking about strategy, always talking about the solution, not moving through the model. Okay, so that's what this talk's all about. So, as I said, we're going to talk about how you build confidence, and our hopes are, over time, we have a model. We have sort of this sort of nicely on its side, if you can imagine that. That's what that image is. And we're wanting to build confidence. So we do some strategy. Hooray, we burn some time, we get some confidence. We do some solution, we burn some time, we gain some confidence. We do some solution, we burn some time, we gain some confidence. And eventually, we get to our 100% confident line. Hooray! But unfortunately, this reality, our hopes, isn't what actually happens. So there's a couple of different options that actually happen. I'm just going to reiterate the problem of this. So we go through the same stages, but actually between stages, we lose confidence because we may be doing baton passes. It might be the strategy people pass a paper. It might be someone's done some solution design, they pass it on somewhere else. So there's baton passes, we lose confidence between that. And as you can see, this model says we use the same amount of time, but we're not as confident. And what we're going to talk about is how do we kind of fix that. Otherwise, we might lose time between those. You might have to go to a steering board. You might have to kind of go through this model and go, okay, well, we've lost confidence and we've lost time. That's very annoying. Or you might end up with lots of iterations at the end of your phases and going backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards. But as you can see, this moves us along in time, moves us up in confidence. It's sort of moving in the right direction. However, what the confidence trap is about is this sort of model, where you again and again and again and again, you're burning time, you're burning money, you're burning effort, but you're not really moving up in confidence. So if you compare this to what our hopes were, you can see what the gap is. And I've used the strategy line as an example, yeah, but it could be at any of the different lines. So what are we going to do about this? What we're going to do is we're going to use Cynefin as a thinking process. So when we get stuck, most of the things we're talking about, we're stuck in the complex space in Cynefin. So there will be some stuff that happens in the chaotic space, in the product space. That's good, really good innovation. There are no enabling constraints in the chaotic space. Get into the complex space, this is where enabling constraints come in. This is where you have to experiment. And these are cycles, and you may have different cycles as you go through. You need to learn. The reason that Cynefin is really good from the left to the right is cause and effect, left is no cause and effect. The complex space is where you need to think about experimentation, learning loops, learning quickly, failing fast, doing work to move yourself from there into the complicated space. Because when we get to the complicated space, we might then have a model that allows us to move forwards. Okay? So what we're trying to think about is how do we move from that complex space where we're stuck, continue thinking about it, into the complicated space so our experts can get the work done, and then maybe into a clear space. Maybe you can codify it into a canvas that makes everybody be able to do it. But actually, as a group of experts, we're probably more likely to be in the complicated space of where we want this to get to, rather than making it totally ubiquitous. So from a Cynefin point of view, that's where we're thinking. We're thinking about enabling constraints. So strategy discovery, what we're going to do, one more thing about name the film. So what film is this? Moneyball, excellent. So, Moneyball, great film. They use strategy, they use numbers to understand their needs to build a great baseball team. They didn't buy the best players, they used a mix of things to achieve their need. And so from a strategy discovery point of view, we're thinking about moving from that business challenge to the desired impact. We want to learn, we want to align as we go through. It's all about the why at this space, because actually that's what we're looking to understand. And in this space, we're going to answer questions and why we're spending this energy. We're going to question the direction we want to go in. We're going to evaluate new ideas, and we're going to define the overall business value. These are all good statements about what we want to be able to do. But what if you get stuck doing that again and again and again and again? What do you do to break out of that? And this is what we propose to do that. So break out of traps in that space. Business model canvases, very helpful as a tooling. And again, we defined about 100 different these kind of models, but these are the ones I kind of picked out for this presentation. So business model canvas, very helpful for understanding what your business is doing, defining your product vision, looking at stakeholder research, but also all the way through here, maintaining parallel options. Because if you refine your options down too soon, you end up in a position where you don't have any options to go forward with. And all the way through this, you need to be thinking about setting enabling constraints. Because if you think about in the Cynefin model, we're up on the left-hand side, we need enabling constraints. So you set a time box, you set a cash box, you work out which things you need in terms of organizational constraints, key stakeholder input as an example. So let's imagine we moved on from here. Done is better than perfect, good. Actually, that matches that, that's good. I was meant to be putting these on here, as I keep forgetting to do that part. But, so we then get into opportunity, and in opportunity, we also have another film, yeah? So what film is this? Field of Dreams, yes! So, the man saw the opportunity to build a baseball pitch right in the middle of the Iowa farmland. Strangely, I've ended up with 2 baseball films. I'm not exactly sure why, but there are obviously lots of them. So the Field of Dreams isn't about an opportunity. From an opportunity discovery, we're looking at the desired impact, and we're trying to meet that unmet customer need. We're going to empathize, and we're going to define. We're kind of thinking more about the what at this point, about what we want to get through. So the types of things we're going to do in this phase, we're going to uncover high-impact value. We're going to empathize with our customers. We're going to refine, and then we're going to prioritize. So we're actually going through a kind of a process with this. Again, but what do you do if you get stuck? Yeah, because if you get stuck continually thinking about opportunities, what do you do? So if you get stuck, some techniques to think about to kind of break that trap. User interviews. So we talked earlier in Kat's talk, which was great. We was talking about how do you interview people, and it made me think about my interviewing technique. We need to find more marginalized people to talk to them for like proper disruption. We need to be thinking about our customer journeys. Yeah, we need to be looking at the customer journeys, working out what is the customer actually doing. We need to be doing usability testing to make sure the customer, what they say they're doing to us in the interviews, what we think they're doing in the customer journey analysis is actually what they're doing, because, spoiler, customers lie. And we also need to do assumption mapping. So we need to check ourselves before we go wrong in this. Similarly to before, you need to set enabling constraints. I tend to set, for this phase, shorter constraints. You may think of like a 5-day effort for this. You may think about how you're constraining your external research spend. You may be looking at existing research, because your organizations will be doing research. Gather that together, use it, and it's valuable. Strong views, loosely held. It's a nice statement. I couldn't actually find who actually stated that one. There we go. Another one, good. So we move into solution discovery, and in solution discovery, we have one more film. Actually, I've got 2 more films in this. Does anyone know this film? It's always the same. Who is it saying this? It's always the same person over there. It's great. So, Hidden Figures. Has anyone seen this film? Yeah. Amazing, yeah? So it's an amazing story in itself, but actually they were the solution to getting the rocket into space, yeah? They were the computers, yeah? Which was amazing, great film. So they're thinking about the solutions, they're working that stuff through. So from a solution discovery point of view, we're looking at that customer need, and we're driving towards the solution for this. So we're going to ideate, we're going to prototype, we're going to actually make some stuff in this. And we're thinking about the how a lot more in this. So we've done why and what before, we're doing how a lot more in the solution. So what are we going to be doing in this phase? So we're going to explore and rank multiple solutions. You need multiple solutions because you can't just have one. I know it's a sort of diamondy kind of expansive compressive process, but you need to explore multiple. You need to validate these solutions to make sure that actually people want them. Yeah, that's the thing that people might like. You need to show the value of what you're providing because that allows you to move on. And also you need to present those options to potential customers. But again, what happens if you get stuck here? So if you get stuck here, mechanisms to help you move on. You need to think about a value-benefit analysis. So if you're getting stuck at this point, you need to be able to convince some people that they need to be able to give you the money to go and build this thing. Yeah, so you need to go look at the value, you need to look at the benefits. Do stuff like lightning demos. I mean, there's lots of stuff you can take from design sprints, lightning demos. I love sketching. I love. It allows you to actually get people involved in doing this work with you. But also, if you have the ability with your systems, do some A/B tests. Yeah, do some actual tests in there. Use Optimizely or whatever you've got involved from your web systems or anything you want to get in there. But at the same time, set enabling constraints. And I'm going to keep laboring this point. If you are going to do a design sprint, just do it. Yeah? Set a week, go and sort this stuff out. Look at the budget allocation, because everybody kind of works in these kind of constrained worlds. Look at your budget allocation and work out what percentage you might use. But also, go and make sure you're involving your design teams. So, again, I've worked in product management and product delivery for 20 years. The best teams I've ever had have had inbuilt design within them. Yeah? Rather than a design agency, as external, rather than design as a service, actually in the team. Use the skills that are available to you, because these are the things which help you to break out of these cycles. I've learned over 20 years, my design is terrible. Yeah? And so therefore, I'm not good at that. So therefore, I know that if I'm doing anything which requires this, I need to find some good designers to work with me. Embrace enabling constraints. So enabling constraints, super important, making sure that you're thinking, how do I set the boundaries to this? Because otherwise, you could carry on doing each of these cycles forever and ever and ever until you run out of money or someone tells you to go home. So, one more. There we go. Honestly, so I'm assuming everyone had one of these when they were young and stuff. I mean, I don't seem to be able to use it quite as well as I did when I was a toddler, but that's fine. So from a delivery point of view, we're going to have another film. What is this film? Castaway, yay! And why is this tenuously linked to delivery? Do anyone know who he worked for? FedEx, yes. So he was a delivery man. So there we go. Good. I said there were tenuous connections and that kind of stuff, but this is all about delivery, this section. So in a delivery discovery, we're moving from that solution to drive impact to actually our delivery approach. And this is a part which might blur between product managers, delivery managers, project managers. I don't mind, yeah, but actually you need to make sure you refine your potential solutions and build your practice and approach to deliver. Because actually if you don't work on this stuff, you will potentially produce the best design for something, but actually it's unfeasible to actually deliver. So previously, we were focusing on why, what, and how. Here, we're going to be looking at who, where, when. Okay, so and then I know it's a forced kind of structure, but we'll also then go back through and refine the why, the what, and the how. So there's all iterative loops in here. So you can see, like at the top, there's nice little loops that go backwards and backwards and backwards. It's not a linear process, but you have to talk about things in a linear process because you can't multi-thread conversation. Okay, so it goes forwards, but it also goes backwards. So what would you do during delivery discovery? So we're going to demonstrate the product is feasible. Yeah? So we're going to make sure that people know that it can be built. Yeah? If you can't build it, then why design it? Yeah? So it's a type of concept. We're going to close down assumptions. We're going to check our dependencies. Make sure that what we're getting to is a viable product. You might be refining your product backlog. You may not even build a backlog at this point, but we need to make sure you're starting to get stuff that the next phase of actual software engineering or product delivery is going to actually build from. And you need to explain and share the intent with the team, because you may have spent a lot of time through strategy, through opportunity, through solution, and then go, ta-da, here's a backlog, go and make stuff. Code that, convert those stories into code. Done. That's just rubbish, yeah? So your job is a storyteller. Your job is to convey the value, to convey the message to the people who are going to build these things. But again, what happens if you get stuck? So if you get stuck at this point, you need to look at your empirical forecasting. Empiricism is fundamentally important, literally the first paragraph of the Scrum Guide about empirical process control. Look at how fast you were going before, work out how fast you're going to go in the future. Don't base it on kind of fanciful estimating, use empirical data. Empirical forecasting is really important. Slightly harder if the product's never been built, new team and all that kind of stuff, you have to kind of make some of that stuff up, but if you've got data, use it. Look at the skills and capabilities you need. Think about what skills you need. Do you need a set of React developers? Do you need some Flutter developers? What are you making? What are you building? How are you going to do that? Make sure that your team is suitably skilled. And if you have got some learning challenges in there, make sure you account for them. So our team will just somehow learn that. Don't assume that people can just learn different languages or that ChatGPT can do it, because that's just a fallacy as well at the moment. Think about the team structure. So if you're using one team, multi-teams, think about your team topologies, how those teams are going to work with each other. So the bigger it is, the more complex it is. Think about that from a team structure point of view. And make sure you've got a cost forecast. So the team that's most likely to kill a project is not the team itself, it's someone from finance with a red pen. They'll just go, oh, I don't know what that is, I'm going to rub that through, done, gone, gone, gone. So make sure you've got your cost forecast in place. And again, quite a lot of this seems to blur between product management into project management and program management, but actually if you haven't got all this stuff together, doesn't matter how good your product management is, you've got no money, you have to go home. Okay? So, and all the way through here, we're thinking about enabling constraints. So remember we were talking about from a Cynefin point of view, set enabling constraints. So if you think this is going to take you 10 months to deliver, maybe you should be spending a month making sure you can ratify this, because actually, do you want to spend 10 months worth of cost if it's not feasible to build? You may need to think about your CapEx allocations. How does budget come down to your teams? Or you may need to be making sure that you're checking against OKRs. You're checking against what the quarterly plan is for the organization, or the multi-quarterly plan. Excuse me. So you need to break through the channels, break through the challenges, and kind of get the kind of essence of this kind of built together. So fail to plan, plan to fail. Again, these are slightly cliched, some of these sayings, but I quite like them anyway because they're very short. So we've gone through the different cycles. So what is the next step for this? So why have I got a fifth one of these on here? Well, I kind of forcibly made a next step section in this because I've got 5 layers in here and I've only got 4 layers in our model. But we thought we'd have a next step section. But first, we'll do a name the film as well. So you can see that I actually inserted these last night. So my flow's gone like, oh, I've got a film again at this point. So name this film. So remember, we're going on to next steps. So what film is this? Specific film as well. I can't. Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, yes. So he is taking the next step. He is taking the leap of faith. He is at the lion's mouth. He is going ahead over that bridge. Again, when I was young, when this was, I say younger, when this came out, it was, oh, it's amazing, look at that. I look at it now and go like, oh, okay. The effects of the 1990s, but great film still anyway. So what we're going to talk about now, just for the last couple of minutes, is actually how do you take this forwards? Yes, how do you take your next step into this? So simply, we use kind of Boyd loops. You may consider them as PDCA loops, or OODA loops, whatever you want to think. But it's about thinking about what you are going to do, how you are going to take forwards what you're going to do about designing your next discovery. So the first thing you're going to do, from an OODA loop point of view, you're going to observe. Okay? So you're going to think about where you are right now. You're going to think about where you are coming into the cycle. So are you currently thinking about strategy? Are you thinking about the business needs? Are you thinking about the opportunity, kind of what could be done? Are you thinking about the solutions for those opportunities? Or are you actually coming in at the point where you need to be starting to work out the plan to actually build that? And as we all work in continuous incremental initiative process, you might have features dropping in at different stages. So you may have a big chunk that's coming through strategy because you don't know if that business model is going to work for you. You may have some bits which are in delivery. That's cool. So the more you think about things in a different state rather than trying to treat everything the same, the better your discovery will be. So observe where you need to be. You need to orientate. You need to think about, have you got confidence. So if you are super confident in what your strategy is, cool, move on. Yeah, one of the challenges from a confidence point of view is people just getting stuck going, oh, I'm not sure, so they just go round and round the loop again and burn money. So if you are confident, move on, yeah, and just get on. Then you need to decide. So if there are any confidence traps, so there are any of the things that we've talked about through this talk, work out what is the appropriate product, design, delivery, engineering practice that might help build your confidence and help move you forward. And then act. Move forwards, set enabling constraints for yourself, make sure that you've got those guardrails which keep moving you forwards, because otherwise you'll just go round and round and round in your circle. So, final quote from this, make a shorter leap of faith. Yeah, so we had Indiana Jones in the previous one, big leap of faith, looked like he was going to die going across that thing. If you can go through this, if you have confidence, you can make short leaps of faith rather than super long ones, which is how you break out of the product confidence trap. Thank you very much for your attention.